The orbital research station Elysium 7 floated silently above the swirling bands of the gas giant Calira. Its steel hull reflected the distant sun like a shard of silver in the void. From the observation deck, the human crew could see the planet's storms roiling beneath them, magnificent and terrifying. To the aliens who controlled the station, it was just another resource-rich world to study. To the humans, it was a reminder of how small they truly were in the eyes of the station's hierarchy. Humans aboard Elysium 7 were treated as civilians. They performed maintenance, conducted research, and carried out the mundane work that kept the station alive, but they had no real authority. Decisions were made by the alien administrators, whose lives had been intertwined with the station for decades. Humans followed their instructions, smiled politely, and accepted the limitations placed on them. Lyra Kane had long learned to navigate the delicate balance between compliance and silent resistance. She was an engineer, a problem solver, someone who preferred machines and equations to politics, but she understood the unspoken rules of life aboard the station. Keep your head down, do your job, and never expect your opinion to matter. Lyra moved through the maintenance corridors with practiced ease. The hallways hummed with the soft vibrations of the station's artificial gravity system. Her boots clicked on the metal flooring as she approached the life support control room. The walls were lined with panels of blinking lights, some green, some yellow, a few red. Normally, a human technician might have been trusted to handle the minor anomalies that popped up from time to time, but in Elysium 7, an alien officer always made the final call. "Morning, Kane," said Jirek, a small alien with translucent skin that shimmered in shades of blue. He floated slightly above the floor, his limbs suspended in a gentle levitation field. "You're on the hydroponics checks today. No deviations reported yesterday." The humidity and nutrient levels were all within acceptable ranges, but she noted small fluctuations in oxygen output. Nothing critical, yet enough to pique her curiosity. She jotted down a note, knowing full well that her observations would likely be ignored unless she made them dramatic enough to catch alien attention. As she walked past the observation deck, she paused briefly. The humans in the recreation module were exercising, some floating through zero-gravity gym areas, others using treadmills designed to simulate planetary gravity. There was laughter, a rare sound in a place where silence often prevailed. Lyra watched them for a moment, feeling the quiet pride that came from being among her kind. Humans were clever, adaptive, and resilient, but their potential was constantly constrained. They had ideas, innovations, and instincts that often went unnoticed, dismissed as irrelevant in the careful, methodical eyes of the aliens. Lyra's thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alarm on her wrist console. A warning blinked in red letters, approaching anomaly detected. She frowned and ran a quick diagnostic. The data was incomplete, the sensors showing a disturbance at the edge of the station's orbit. It wasn't yet dangerous, but it was unusual. She reached out to the nearest alien officer, a tall figure with metallic gray skin named Talon. "Sir, I'm getting an unusual reading on the outer sensors." Could be a minor gravitational fluctuation near the gas giant. She knew the aliens would not change their minds. Humans were civilians here, and civilians did not question alien procedures. Even as she worked, small things caught her attention. A faint flicker in the lighting system, the slight uneven hum of the gravity generators, and a sudden chill in one of the maintenance corridors. She made mental notes, her instincts whispering that something unusual was building. By midday, the anomaly's presence became more noticeable. Sensors indicated that a cluster of charged particles was approaching faster than expected. Lyra ran calculations, projecting the path of the anomaly. If it intersected with the station's orbit, it could cause serious electromagnetic interference. She considered raising the alarm again, but before she could, another technician interrupted her. "Kane, the hydroponics module needs a manual inspection. There's an unexpected drop in nutrient circulation." Alien officers oversaw the systems, but they did not understand the delicate balance of flora in low-gravity environments. Humans had learned to compensate, adjusting water and nutrient levels with precise calculations and gentle hands. As she worked, her communicator buzzed again. This time it was a direct line from the station's operations center. "Kane, please report to the bridge immediately." "Commander Kane," Talon said, his voice even though the subtle tightening of his expression betrayed concern. "We are monitoring an incoming cosmic storm. Current models indicate minimal impact, you will continue your routine checks. If it interacts with the station's systems simultaneously, it could compromise life support modules. She left the bridge, her mind racing through contingency plans. If the storm intensified, humans would need to act quickly, and there would be no support from the station's administration. Back in the maintenance corridors, Lyra gathered a small group of human technicians. They checked structural integrity, rerouted minor power lines, and reinforced critical areas. Each action was measured, precise, and designed to mitigate risks the aliens had dismissed. As they worked, she could see the determination in their eyes. Humans were not weak, not incapable. They were simply underestimated. Time passed slowly, with each hour bringing the storm closer. The sky outside the observation windows darkened slightly as charged particles shimmered faintly against the black of space. Crew members murmured among themselves, the first flickers of concern appearing in their voices. Even some of the aliens paused to monitor the readings, though they did so with cautious detachment. Lyra moved methodically, checking each subsystem. Oxygen levels were stable for now, but backup reserves were low. Gravity chambers were operating efficiently, though the power fluctuations could destabilize them if the storm hit harder than expected. Water circulation in the habitat modules was slightly irregular, a minor issue that could quickly become serious in zero gravity. By evening, the station's public announcement system activated. A calm alien voice addressed the inhabitants. "Attention, all personnel, a minor cosmic storm is approaching. Standard protocols remain in effect. No action is required from civilians." If the aliens refused to prepare, the humans would have to. They would protect themselves, the station, and anyone who could not protect themselves. Lyra returned to the observation deck for a moment, watching the storm approach. She noted its irregular movement, the way it shimmered unpredictably, and the subtle distortions it created in the space around it. Humans had always faced challenges that others deemed impossible. On distant planets in the vacuum of space, through trials of survival and innovation, they had proven time and again that their greatest strength lay in their adaptability and ingenuity. A quiet resolve settled over her. Whatever the aliens believed, humans would not be passive observers when the station and its inhabitants were at risk. They had the knowledge, the courage, and the ability to act when others could not. And when the emergency came, and Lyra sensed it would come soon, they would show what humanity was truly capable of. The night passed slowly, with lights flickering occasionally and minor system alerts interrupting the quiet hum of the station. Humans continued their vigilance, checking modules, recalculating sensor data, and preparing for a storm that, as yet, had not fully revealed its power. As dawn approached, the first true signs of the storm became evident. Electrical systems in remote corridors hummed erratically, and subtle vibrations coursed through the metal floor. Aliens continued to monitor calmly, but the humans noticed the small anomalies, the subtle indications of impending danger. Lyra gathered her team in a quiet corner of the maintenance area. "We don't have much time," she said. "The storm is coming faster than they expect. When it hits, we'll need to act. Check all life support modules, power lines, and communication systems. Everyone must be ready to move at a moment's notice. We can't rely on anyone else to do it for us." They were the guardians of the station, the ones who would rise when others faltered. Outside, the storm continued its approach, a shimmering wave of energy moving through the void. Within the station, humans prepared quietly, methodically, and with unwavering determination. They were civilians today, but that title meant nothing when survival depended on action, courage, and the brilliance of human minds. And somewhere deep inside, Lyra Kane smiled faintly. When the emergency came, the station would finally see the true power of humanity. The storm arrived faster than anyone had predicted. Outside the station, space was no longer calm. Shimmering ribbons of charged particles tore through the void, glowing with colors that humans had no names for. The gas giant Calira's storm seemed to mirror the chaos in orbit, swirling violently as if the planet itself had sent a warning. Within Elysium 7, systems began to react to the incoming anomaly, not all of them predictably. The first signs were subtle. Flickers in the lighting systems, brief power surges in minor modules, a slight instability in the gravity fields. To most of the alien officers, these were minor irregularities, well within station tolerance. To the humans, they were alarms that something far worse was coming. Lyra Kane was already moving through the corridors, her boots clicking on the metal floor as she assessed the situation. Every panel she checked confirmed her suspicion. The storm's intensity was higher than anyone had modeled. "Commander Kane, the storm is affecting sensor readings beyond predictions," said Varro, a young human technician, as he floated near her in zero gravity. "If this keeps up, some of the life support modules may fail." The corridors hummed with urgency as more humans joined in, moving quickly but deliberately, checking systems, rerouting power, and stabilizing modules. At the same time, alien officers attempted to follow their standard emergency protocols, but the procedures were rigid. They moved in careful patterns, reading instructions from displays that assumed predictable anomalies. The storm did not obey predictability. It twisted and surged in ways that defied their logic. In one moment, a gravity chamber would fluctuate dangerously, threatening to throw crew members across the corridor. In another, communications with auxiliary modules would cut out entirely. The aliens hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Lyra watched as one officer paused in confusion, staring at a flickering console. She could not wait. The humans could handle this, and they would. "Varro, get the auxiliary life support online manually. Talia, check the water circulation. Move fast." Her voice was calm but firm. Humans responded instantly, coordinating with each other in a rhythm born from training, instinct, and necessity. As the storm intensified, a loud alarm blared across the station. The main life support system had begun to fail in several habitat modules. Oxygen levels were dropping, temperature regulators were struggling, and gravity fields were fluctuating unpredictably. Crew members began to panic, humans and aliens alike. Lyra moved quickly, guiding her team through zero-gravity corridors with precise directions. "Stay calm, follow the path markers, use manual overrides if necessary." Lyra and her team moved in, securing harnesses, stabilizing the module with auxiliary gravity generators, and slowly bringing the civilians back to safety. Every human she saved reinforced her growing conviction. Humans were capable of more than anyone aboard the station had believed. Meanwhile, communications across the station were in chaos. Alien officers tried to issue orders, but their voices were drowned out by the storm's interference. Messages became garbled, systems delayed, and modules lost contact with the central hub. Lyra realized that humans would have to take control, not in defiance but out of necessity. The safety of everyone depended on it. She coordinated a human-led response center in one of the less affected corridors, using a combination of manual control panels and portable diagnostic units. The humans quickly divided tasks. Some monitored oxygen levels, others stabilized gravity chambers, and a few rerouted power to critical systems. Every decision required calculation and courage. Improvisation became as important as knowledge. As the storm raged, more life support modules began to fail. One module containing a medical bay and research labs suddenly lost pressure. Lyra moved a team through emergency hatches, carefully monitoring their suits and oxygen tanks. Inside, equipment floated unpredictably, broken tools drifting in zero gravity. Patients in medical units were strapped into emergency restraints, anxious and frightened. Lyra's team worked quickly, improvising stabilizers for damaged systems while calming the trapped humans. "You can't just rely on protocols," Lyra told one young technician as they patched a power line with makeshift connectors. "The storm doesn't care about procedures. Humans adapt. That's why we survive." Her team immediately began analyzing the reactor's readings, using both standard procedures and creative improvisation to relieve pressure and prevent a catastrophic failure. The aliens still observed with detachment, some resistant to Lyra's instructions. One officer, gray-skinned and tall, argued that manual intervention was unnecessary. Lyra ignored him. "If we wait, it will be too late." "Move now." Humans responded without hesitation, their hands and minds working together to counteract the storm's effects. In one section, a power surge caused the lights to flicker violently. An alien officer froze, unsure how to proceed. Lyra dashed over, guiding the humans to stabilize the system using portable power units. "Use what you have, think fast. We don't have the luxury of following rigid rules." The officer stepped back, watching in awe as humans restored the module's functionality in minutes, a task that had stumped him for hours under standard protocol. As the hours passed, the storm's interference worsened. The station shuddered under micrometeorite impacts and gravitational distortions. Communication with external satellites became unreliable, and some modules drifted slightly out of alignment. Humans adapted, moving through the chaos with coordination and calm. Each life they saved and each system they stabilized reinforced a growing realization: humans were indispensable. Lyra and her team reached one of the outer modules, where the storm had caused a partial hull breach. Air pressure was dropping rapidly. The aliens hesitated at the emergency hatch, unsure how to handle the exposure. Lyra didn't wait. She directed her team to deploy emergency seals and reinforce the structure with portable support beams. The breach was stabilized, and the module's atmosphere slowly returned to safe levels. The rescued humans inside looked at her with gratitude and awe, understanding that without her intervention, they would not have survived. At the same time, a group of young human engineers devised a way to reroute power from auxiliary systems to keep failing modules online. They worked quickly, improvising with limited tools, calculating potential outcomes, and executing each step flawlessly. Their innovation was something the aliens had not anticipated. Humans were capable of rapid adaptation in unpredictable circumstances. Even as success in small modules accumulated, the reactor instability remained the largest threat. Lyra analyzed the data and realized the only way to prevent disaster was a risky maneuver: venting excess energy manually from the reactor's auxiliary valves. The task was dangerous, requiring someone to enter a semi-exposed area with unstable energy fields and operate precise controls. Aliens would not attempt it; they lacked the flexibility and instinct required. Humans, however, were willing to try. Lyra selected a small team of technicians, all humans, and briefed them. "This will be dangerous, but if we don't do it, the reactor could go critical. Trust your skills, trust your instincts, and work together. We've done more than anyone thought possible today. Let's finish this." The team nodded, their resolve clear. As they prepared for the task, the storm raged around the station, its energy crackling across the hull. The outer modules shuddered, lights flickered, and air pressure fluctuated in minor sections. Humans moved with precision, coordinating every step in perfect unison. Each minute was measured, each action deliberate. The aliens watched, some unable to hide their astonishment at the humans' bravery and competence. When the team reached the reactor's auxiliary chamber, they worked quickly, rerouting power, opening valves, and venting excess energy into controlled channels. Sparks flew, alarms blared, but the humans remained calm, focused, and unafraid. Within minutes, the reactor's vibrations stabilized, and critical systems returned to near-normal operation. Lyra allowed herself a brief moment of relief, knowing the station had been saved from immediate catastrophe. The storm continued to batter Elysium 7, but the humans' efforts had prevented total disaster. Systems were stabilizing, lives were being saved, and the station remained intact. Slowly, a realization spread among the aliens. The humans they had treated as civilians, as second-class workers, had just prevented the station from destruction. In a quiet corridor, Lyra allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. The storm had revealed a truth she had known all along. Humans were more than their assigned roles, more than the limitations imposed by others. Under pressure in moments of crisis, they could adapt, improvise, and overcome challenges that even experienced alien officers could not. By the end of the first day of the storm, Elysium 7 had survived largely because of human ingenuity, courage, and determination. Aliens, for the first time, looked at humans with something approaching respect. Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The storm was far from over, and new challenges would demand even more from the humans aboard the station. But she also knew one thing clearly: humans were no longer mere civilians. They had proven their value, and the station, for the first time, could not ignore it. The storm raged on outside, a reminder of the dangers of space and the limits of rigid protocol. Inside, humans moved with quiet confidence, their hands and minds shaping the fate of the station. They were clever, resourceful, and brave. And when the full extent of the emergency revealed itself, humans would rise again, stronger and more capable than anyone had ever expected. The storm had passed its first wave, but Elysium 7 was far from safe. The station trembled slightly under the aftershocks of the cosmic anomaly. Gravity fields were fluctuating unpredictably, auxiliary power lines hummed dangerously, and minor hull fractures needed constant attention. Even as systems slowly stabilized, it became clear to everyone: humans would need to lead the next phase of response. The aliens had followed their protocols, but protocols could not adapt in real time. Humans had shown initiative and bravery, and now the survival of the station depended entirely on their resourcefulness. Lyra Kane stood at the central junction, reviewing data from the outer modules. Her brow was furrowed, eyes scanning multiple displays simultaneously. Each line of numbers represented a life, a module, a critical system. The storm had revealed weaknesses in the station's design that the aliens had dismissed, but humans had noticed, repaired, and stabilized them in record time. Lyra's team had proven that improvisation, not rigid procedure, was essential when the unexpected became reality. "Commander Kane," said Varro, floating beside her with a portable diagnostic tablet in hand, "life support in Modules 5, 7, and 9 is still unstable. Gravity fields are fluctuating, and auxiliary oxygen reserves are depleting faster than we can replenish them. If this continues, the habitat decks could become uninhabitable. One team stabilizes oxygen and life support. The other reinforces gravity systems. Talia, take the gravity team. We have experience in real-time adaptation. Follow our lead." Some aliens hesitated, unsure whether to obey, but most eventually followed the human instructions, realizing that the station's survival depended on action, not authority. As the teams moved to different sections of the station, the tension was palpable. In Module 5, oxygen levels had dropped dangerously low. Humans floated through the corridors in zero gravity, carrying emergency tanks and portable life support units. Broken connectors, sparked circuits, and flickering lights created a chaotic scene. Lyra's team worked methodically, patching lines, rerouting power, and restoring ventilation. Every second counted. Meanwhile, in Module 7, Talia's group wrestled with fluctuating gravity fields. Crew members were thrown off balance as artificial gravity faltered intermittently. Humans quickly anchored themselves to the structure, using magnetic boots and temporary stabilizers. They guided others to safe areas, improvising grips and harnesses to prevent injury. Aliens watched with a mixture of awe and anxiety, unable to adapt as flexibly as the humans. During these operations, small victories built morale. Oxygen levels rose in Module 5, gravity stabilized in Module 7, and communications between modules improved thanks to quick repairs of damaged relay systems. Each success reinforced a growing confidence among humans. They were capable of handling situations no protocol could fully anticipate. But as day turned to night in orbit, a more serious threat emerged. Sensors in the central reactor indicated rising instability. The initial repairs had prevented immediate disaster, but energy levels in the core were fluctuating wildly. If the reactor failed, the station could be destroyed. "Lyra," Varro said, his voice tense, "the reactor is trending toward critical. We need a solution now. External systems are under too much stress. We can't stabilize it from the inside with current resources." But humans could act, guided by instinct, teamwork, and courage. She gathered a small team of her most experienced technicians. "This will be dangerous," Lyra said. "We'll be exposed to radiation spikes, debris, and the storm's residual energy. We have no room for error, but if we succeed, we save the station. We save everyone aboard. Do you trust your skills?" Lyra's team sealed their suits, checked oxygen tanks, and secured their tools. Every movement was deliberate, precise, and rehearsed. The outer airlock opened, revealing the black void of space. Beyond it, the gas giant Calira spun majestically, storm clouds swirling in chaotic patterns. The station itself groaned as it adjusted to the residual effects of the storm. Lyra led her team along the hull, their magnetic boots keeping them tethered to the surface. Sparks flew from minor hull damage, and particles from the storm brushed past them, sending small shocks of energy through their suits. Each step required calculation. Every valve, every control demanded careful handling. The reactor's auxiliary channels were exposed, requiring the team to manipulate intricate controls under extreme conditions. Varro and Talia worked in sync, following Lyra's instructions precisely. Together, they vented excess energy, rerouted power, and stabilized the reactor's core. The process was dangerous, exhausting, and intense, but the humans persevered. Back inside the station, the tension was palpable. Crew members watched anxiously through observation screens as the human team worked. Alien officers hovered, some in disbelief. The humans were risking everything, operating outside the bounds of rigid rules, and yet succeeding where the aliens could not. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the reactor stabilized. Pressure normalized, energy levels returned to safe parameters, and alarms ceased. The station shuddered slightly as systems recalibrated, but overall integrity was maintained. The humans had succeeded. As they returned to the airlock, exhausted but triumphant, the first signs of relief spread among the station's inhabitants. Humans were no longer passive participants in the station's life. They were its protectors. Lyra and her team had demonstrated skill, courage, and intelligence in the face of overwhelming odds. Even some of the aliens, once skeptical, could not hide their admiration. Talon approached Lyra quietly. "You have exceeded all expectations. Your team has prevented disaster. I underestimated your species. They had proven that when the situation demanded, they could take control, act decisively, and succeed where others hesitated. The station's survival now depended on their continued vigilance and ingenuity." In the aftermath of the first storm wave, Lyra reflected on what had changed. Humans had been dismissed as civilians, seen as incapable of leadership, and yet they had prevented catastrophe. They had shown that adaptability, courage, and teamwork could surpass rigid procedures and advanced technology when circumstances were unpredictable. For the first time, the station's humans were recognized not for their assigned roles, but for their abilities, their resourcefulness, and their bravery. The recognition was quiet, subtle, but meaningful. Aliens who had once seen humans as secondary participants were now forced to acknowledge their value. Lyra moved through the station corridors, checking on her teams, ensuring everyone was safe and systems were stable. Each crew member she passed looked at her with a mix of respect and relief. She understood their feelings. Humans had been underestimated, but their true strength was visible now. They were more than civilians. They were essential. As the night progressed, humans continued monitoring systems, repairing minor damages, and coordinating with each other in a rhythm born of necessity. The aliens were still present, but increasingly they deferred to human decisions, recognizing that survival depended on human leadership in unpredictable circumstances. Even in moments of quiet, the humans remained alert. They checked life support, reinforced hull sections, and reviewed reactor readings. They improvised solutions for minor problems before they could escalate. Their actions were calm, deliberate, and precise. Humans had learned to survive in extreme conditions, to think quickly, and to work together under pressure. The storm outside continued to rage in distant space, a reminder that danger was never far in the universe. But inside Elysium 7, humans had demonstrated their true potential. They were resilient, adaptable, and courageous. They had risen to the challenge when protocols failed and leadership faltered. Lyra stood once more at the observation deck, gazing at the gas giant below. Its storms were magnificent and terrifying, yet the station remained intact. Humans had faced the unknown, acted decisively, and prevailed. She knew this was only the beginning. The storm had revealed not just weaknesses in the station, but the hidden strengths of humanity. As she looked at her fellow humans working tirelessly to stabilize systems, Lyra felt a surge of pride. They had proven that when the world, or space itself, tested them, humans would rise to the challenge. They were clever, courageous, and unyielding. And when the next wave of the storm came, they would face it together, stronger than ever, ready to show that humans were no longer to be treated as mere civilians. The storm had returned with renewed force, stronger and more unpredictable than before. Even as Elysium 7's system stabilized after the first wave, tremors ran through the station, rattling loose panels and sending minor debris floating through the corridors. The gas giant Calira loomed below, its storms now mirrored in space, twisting into bright spirals of energy that stretched across the void. Inside the station, tension hung thick in the air. Systems were working barely, but the reactor remained unstable. If the auxiliary channels failed again, the station could be destroyed. Lyra Kane assembled her team in the central junction, their faces illuminated by the blinking lights of the diagnostic panels. Every human present understood the stakes. The storm had made one thing clear. If humans did not act decisively, the station could not survive. She looked at their determined expressions and spoke with calm authority. "The reactor is showing signs of secondary instability. If we do not act now, this station, and everyone on it, could be lost. The only option is a spacewalk to manually vent pressure through the auxiliary valves. The aliens will not attempt it. We will. Are you ready?" Lyra could see the trust and confidence in their eyes. The outer airlock hissed open, revealing the void of space. Beyond it, Calira's storms swirled in violent, shifting patterns. The station itself groaned as minor systems struggled against residual gravitational fluctuations. Lyra led the team into the blackness, their magnetic boots clinging to the hull. Sparks from small meteor impacts flickered across the surface, reminding them that space was as deadly as it was magnificent. Each step along the hull required calculation. One wrong move could send a person spinning into the void, exposed to radiation spikes and debris. Lyra's team moved with precision, checking tether lines, confirming oxygen flow, and verifying the alignment of portable tools. Every action was deliberate, practiced, and necessary. The auxiliary valves were located in a section of the station most exposed to the storm's energy. Lyra's team approached cautiously, navigating around structural beams and minor hull fractures. The storm's residual radiation caused sparks to arc across exposed conduits, and small energy discharges struck the hull, sending vibrations up through the human suits. Each member worked carefully, keeping balance while coordinating their movements. Varro, secure the first valve panel. Talia, monitor energy readings. Everyone else assist with tether alignment, Lyra instructed. The team responded instantly, moving like a single organism. Years of training, practice, and shared experience coalesced into flawless coordination. Humans were proving once again that adaptability and ingenuity mattered more than rigid procedure. The first valve was stuck. Corrosion and minor debris had fused the mechanisms together, a complication the alien protocols could not account for. Lyra examined it quickly, then improvised. Using a reinforced multi-tool, she gently tapped, twisted, and applied calculated pressure. Sparks flew, but the valve began to shift. "Hold it steady," she called to Varro. Together, they forced the mechanism into alignment. A hiss of vented energy confirmed the first step towards stabilizing the reactor. The second valve was more difficult. Radiation readings spiked as residual storm energy interacted with the reactor's auxiliary lines. The team paused, recalibrating shields and protective equipment. One alien officer monitoring the operation from the bridge gasped as he realized the danger the humans were willingly facing. Lyra ignored him. Hesitation would cost lives. "Slow and steady," she reminded her team. "We have one shot at this, don't rush." Lyra and her team worked with intuition and skill honed through practice and problem-solving. Inside the station, other humans continued to manage critical systems. Life support, gravity chambers, and auxiliary modules relied on the spacewalking team's success. Communication was difficult, signals distorted by residual interference from the storm, but the humans improvised. Portable communicators were repositioned, manual relay signals established, and instructions sent in bursts to bypass interference. The operation required trust, coordination, and clear thinking under pressure. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Sweat, or the zero-gravity equivalent, the tight press of suit tension, built on every team member as they worked tirelessly. Sparks from the exposed valves reflected across their helmets, painting their faces with streaks of red and orange light. The storm's energy surged around them, shaking the station slightly with each pulse. Finally, the third and final valve came into view. This one was the most critical, located near an external junction where residual debris threatened to damage the reactor if not vented in time. Lyra assessed the situation. She knew this step would determine the station's survival. With careful calculations, she instructed the team to secure the valve. "This one is delicate. Everyone, focus. One mistake, and we could lose the station." Lyra took a deep breath, adjusting her approach based on the subtle feedback from the machinery. Slowly, methodically, the valve moved. A hiss of controlled energy venting through auxiliary channels echoed across the void. The final pressure release was confirmed by readings in the central reactor. Energy levels stabilized. The hum of the station shifted, the subtle vibrations lessening as systems recalibrated. The human team had succeeded. Returning to the airlock was a tense journey. Minor debris from the storm continued to swirl, and residual radiation posed a constant threat. Every member kept their focus, relying on tethers and magnetic boots to maintain balance. Step by step, they moved back towards safety, finally entering the station's interior. The airlock sealed, and the team removed helmets, faces shining with sweat and relief. Inside the station, crew members, both human and alien, watched with admiration. Lyra's team had accomplished something no protocol could have predicted. Humans had faced extreme danger, relied on ingenuity, teamwork, and courage, and succeeded where others might have failed. The alien officers, who had once dismissed humans as civilians incapable of leadership, approached cautiously. Talon, the gray-skinned officer who had doubted them, spoke softly. "I did not expect such competence. You have saved the station, Commander Kane." But humans aboard Elysium 7 had proven their worth, not through authority or orders, but through courage, intelligence, and decisive action. They had become the station's guardians. As systems stabilized and minor repairs were made, Lyra moved through the corridors, checking on her team and the station's inhabitants. Each human she passed offered a nod of respect or a quiet word of gratitude. They had faced danger together, improvised solutions, and survived where others might have failed. They were no longer civilians in practice or reputation. Their abilities had been demonstrated in the harshest environment imaginable. By nightfall, the station's status was much improved. Life support systems were stable, gravity fields were functioning normally, and communications had been restored. The reactor hummed steadily, its auxiliary channels secure. The storm's energy continued to pass through distant space, but the immediate threat had been neutralized by human ingenuity. Lyra reflected on the day's events. The storm had revealed the true strength of humanity: adaptability, courage, and collaboration. Where rigid protocols failed, humans had succeeded. Where hesitation might have led to disaster, decisiveness had saved lives. And as she watched her fellow humans working tirelessly, ensuring every system remained stable, she felt a profound sense of pride. For the first time, humans aboard Elysium 7 were not merely civilians. They were recognized, silently but clearly, as essential participants in the survival of the station. Aliens could no longer dismiss them as second-class inhabitants. Humans had acted where others could not. They had proven themselves under the most extreme conditions, showing that intelligence, creativity, and courage were qualities that could not be ignored. Lyra looked out once more at Calira. Its storms were magnificent, dangerous, and unpredictable. Yet inside Elysium 7, humans had met the storm head-on, acted decisively, and prevailed. The station was still standing, alive, and intact because humans had chosen to act rather than wait. They had demonstrated that when the world, or the universe, tested them, humans would rise to the challenge. The storm was not completely gone, but the worst had passed. Inside the station, humans continued their vigilant watch. They repaired minor damages, reinforced weak systems, and prepared for the possibility of further challenges. Their teamwork, ingenuity, and courage had proven their worth. Elysium 7 would survive not because of protocol or hierarchy, but because humans had refused to fail. Lyra stood on the observation deck, gazing at the swirling storms below. Her team worked silently in the corridors, stabilizing systems, monitoring critical functions, and ensuring the safety of every inhabitant. Humans had faced impossible odds and triumphed. And as the first calm after the storm settled over the station, Lyra knew that this was only the beginning. Humanity would never again be underestimated aboard Elysium 7. They were no longer civilians, they were heroes. The storm had passed, but its mark lingered across Elysium 7. Hull panels bore scratches from debris, auxiliary conduits smoked faintly, and the reactor hummed with careful caution. The station was alive, but only barely. Systems stabilized for now, but the threat of aftershocks, residual energy, and micrometeorite impacts demanded constant vigilance. Humans, once dismissed as civilians, were now the ones holding everything together. Lyra Kane moved through the central junction, her boots echoing on the metal floor. Around her, humans coordinated repairs, monitored oxygen levels, and stabilized gravity chambers. Their actions were precise, calm, and decisive. Where alien officers had hesitated, humans acted. Where rigid protocols had failed, humans had improvised. Every repair, every adjustment reinforced a simple truth: survival depended on human skill, ingenuity, and courage. "Commander Kane," Varro called, glancing at a portable display, "some auxiliary thrusters are misaligned. If we don't correct them, we can't fully stabilize the station's orbit. It might drift, and we risk losing critical modules. Move fast but carefully." The airlock opened, revealing the void of space. Calira's storms, though distant now, reflected brilliantly on the station's hull. Debris from the earlier storm drifted lazily, reminders of the chaos that had just passed. Lyra led her team along the hull, magnetic boots securing each step. Every movement required focus, precision, and trust in one another. When they reached the thrusters, the problem became immediately clear. Misaligned modules were partially frozen from the earlier storm, and sensors showed fluctuating energy readings. Lyra quickly assessed the situation. "We'll recalibrate them manually," Varro, guide the energy flow. Talia, secure the structural clamps. Everyone else, monitor for debris and radiation spikes. We don't have a second chance. Sparks arced across the panels, but each human remained calm, focused, and deliberate. Inside the station, humans were stabilizing life support and gravity modules in tandem. Communication lines crackled occasionally with minor interference, but humans improvised relay systems, ensuring constant coordination. The aliens, observing from the bridge, watched in quiet astonishment as humans executed their plan flawlessly. What had once been considered a civilian crew was now the lifeline of Elysium 7. Minutes felt like hours as the final adjustments were made. Lyra monitored energy flows, recalibrated thruster angles, and issued commands with calm authority. Small errors were corrected instantly by the team's intuition and adaptability. Finally, the thrusters aligned perfectly, auxiliary systems balanced, and the station's orbit stabilized. Elysium 7 floated securely above Calira, no longer at risk of drifting or collapse. The humans returned to the interior of the station, removing helmets and taking deep breaths of filtered air. Their faces shone with sweat, fatigue, and relief. The station was alive because of them. Every life aboard, human and alien alike, had been preserved by their skill and bravery. On the bridge, Talon and other alien officers approached cautiously. Some avoided eye contact, uncertain how to acknowledge the humans' achievement. Talon finally spoke, his voice measured but sincere. "Commander Kane and your team, you have exceeded expectations. You have not only saved the station but demonstrated a capacity for leadership, courage, and problem-solving that our protocols could not anticipate. Humans are no longer merely civilians aboard this station. Humans adapt, we improvise, and we persevere. That's what keeps us alive and keeps the station alive." Humans led the repair of minor hull damages, recalibration of environmental systems, and reinforcement of weakened structural points. The aliens assisted where necessary, but it was humans who coordinated the efforts, who made the decisions, and who ensured efficiency. Every action reflected not just competence but decisiveness, problem-solving, and teamwork. In the residential modules, humans checked on crew members. Panic had given way to relief. Families, patients, and scientists looked at the humans with gratitude and awe. Lyra moved from module to module, ensuring that oxygen, temperature, and gravity levels were steady. Each interaction reinforced a growing truth. Humans had risen to the challenge, saving lives and preserving order where protocols alone could not. By mid-orbit, the station's systems hummed smoothly. Gravity chambers were steady, life support modules maintained perfect oxygen levels, and energy flows were fully balanced. The reactors, stabilized by previous efforts, operated within safe parameters. Humans had transformed the station from a fragile shell into a secure habitat. Lyra gathered her team once more. "We've done what we could for now. Monitor all systems closely. Minor issues will arise, but we're ready. Remember, our work doesn't end here. Vigilance is as important as action." They were tired but resolute. Their efforts had not only saved the station, they had earned a new status. Humans aboard Elysium 7 were no longer second class. They were leaders, decision-makers, and protectors. They had demonstrated qualities that no protocol could replicate: courage under pressure, ingenuity, and an unwavering commitment to survival. As the hours passed, a quiet acknowledgement spread among the alien officers. Some offered thanks directly, while others observed humans coordinating repairs, stabilizing modules, and solving problems with precision and creativity. Words were unnecessary. Actions spoke louder than any formal declaration. Humans had proven their worth through performance, decisiveness, and adaptability. In the observation deck, Lyra watched the gas giant below. Its storms were magnificent and terrifying, yet the station floated safely above them, intact. Humans had faced impossible odds and succeeded. Where others hesitated, they acted. Where protocols failed, they improvised. And where fear threatened to paralyze, they persevered. A message came through from the station's external communications, a signal from the alien administration orbiting nearby. It was brief, formal, and unexpected. "Humans aboard Elysium 7 are hereby recognized as integral personnel. Their authority in emergency situations is acknowledged. Decisions regarding station survival may be directed by human command." The recognition, while formal, confirmed what she had known all along. Humans were capable of leadership, courage, and ingenuity beyond what others had credited. They had earned the trust and respect of not just their peers, but the alien hierarchy itself. Throughout the station, humans continued their work. They stabilized minor energy fluctuations, repaired hull sections, and reinforced weakened modules. They assisted aliens who had previously doubted their abilities, demonstrating collaboration and mentorship. Every task was approached with calm competence, reflecting the experience gained during the storm and spacewalk. As night fell in orbit above Calira, the station was secure. Humans had transformed the perception of their species aboard Elysium 7. No longer were they civilians to be monitored and directed. They were leaders, decision-makers, and heroes. The HFY moment was complete. Humans had risen to the challenge, adapted under pressure, and preserved not just themselves, but the entire station. Lyra took a final walk through the corridors. Crew members looked at her and her team with respect and gratitude. Young humans who had only moments ago been frightened and unsure now carried themselves with confidence. The storm had been a trial, but it had revealed the strength, courage, and ingenuity of humanity. Finally, she returned to the observation deck, gazing at the gas giant. Its storms continued to swirl, beautiful and dangerous, yet the station floated safely above, a testament to human resilience. She knew that challenges would come again, space was unforgiving, and emergencies were inevitable. But Lyra also knew something else. Humans had shown their value, proven their capability, and earned a place among the station's leadership. And in that moment, Lyra Kane allowed herself to feel something rare but profound: pride. Humanity had risen not with weapons, not with force, but with ingenuity, courage, and unyielding determination. They had faced the storm, adapted to the impossible, and emerged victorious. Humans were no longer civilians. They were essential, respected, and undeniably extraordinary. The stars beyond twinkled silently, indifferent to the struggles of mortals within their reach. Yet aboard Elysium 7, humans had carved their mark among the cosmos. They had proven that when the universe tested them, they would rise, they would endure, and they would shine.